"What on earth are you saying? You housekeeper?" My mother-in-law screamed furiously. Frozen, taken aback by her remarks. "Where? Like a housekeeper? Are you sincere?" My voice faltering with incredulity, I asked. "Yes, that is exactly what you are in this house," she said. "I see. The least you can do is take care of the household chores like a proper housekeeper. You don't earn much money." My father-in-law interjected before I could answer. "We wouldn't have any issues even in absence of you. You are not rather significant." Sminking, my mother-in-law said, "We manage just fine without you." Trying to be cool despite the sting of their comments, I closed my fists. Drawing a long breath, I answered firmly, "Fine. Should that be your perspective, I will walk away without second thought. Let me introduce myself. We go as Janice. Married to Austin for the past 3 years, I am a 33-year-old housewife. Together we have a lovely 3-year-old daughter. Our was the kind of shotgun marriage people refer to. Though we hadn't stayed in touch after graduation, Austin and I were high school friends. We got back together for a class reunion a few years ago, and things started to flare. After 3 years of dating, I found I was pregnant, and we agreed to be married. We both were in our late 30s at the time. Starting a family was a quite normal age, hence there was less criticism about our choice. Having our baby felt like a blessing, and in many respects her birth helped me to adjust to parenting. I was glad with Austin. I took a full maternity break so I could concentrate just on raising her and being here for all her turning points. Austin was quite devoted as well. He would come home thrilled to spend time with her every evening following work. Our house exuded love and warmth. Still, this quiet existence was fleeting. Austin's mention of moving in with his folks started things to shift. He mentioned casually one evening as we sat down following supper, "Sky, my parents have been asking me for a while to move in with them." I was startled. "For what reason? Their age is not too great. They appear entirely suited for life on their own." I said. "This is not about their age," Austin said. "I'm the eldest son, and historically I should live with and look after them. I wanted to live with only you and our daughter, so when we got married I said no. But right now it seems like the appropriate time." Although I felt uncomfortable, he carried on. "Now our daughter is 3 years old. We should be allowed to move in my opinion. My mom can also assist with childcare and housework. Sounds like a great concept, right?" I wasn't sure what to say. Though I felt uncomfortable about living with his parents, I knew Austin was serious. I had no idea, though, this choice would completely flip my life. I'm working part-time right now, but it's not easy to raise a child, work, and do all the housework at the same time, I said. Before we moved in together, I saw my in-laws little at all. When I did, though, I observed how much my daughter was loved. At the time, I had no bad sentiments toward them. Actually, if we all lived together, I reasoned we might be able to make it work. Living among in-laws may be difficult, I had always heard. But after some thought, I persuaded myself it wouldn't be overly unpleasant. I so consented to live with them. When I look back now, I see that was a serious error. Things were good for the first month or 2 we moved in. At least it seemed that way. My in-laws were courteous. I balanced housework, job, and caring for my daughter to try my best to help the house. But with time, their impression of me started to shift. "Janice, could we have dinner a little earlier tonight?" My mother-in-law said one evening. "I'm not finding this timing to work." I explained, "I usually pick up my daughter after work, and by the time we get home and I cook, it's around this time." "I can try, but it's not easy. If you're only working part-time, you should come home earlier and make dinner on time," she replied bluntly. "Well, it's my job, so I can't just leave whenever I want," I started to explain. But she interrupted me. "It's so half-hearted. Honestly, it's annoying. she said with a tone of irritation. I couldn't believe how much they were starting to criticize me. My job finishes around 3 p.m., and after that, I pick up my daughter from daycare, stop by the supermarket to buy groceries, and come home to cook dinner. Dinner is usually ready by 5 p.m., which doesn't seem late to me. Besides, my daughter isn't even home until then. My mother-in-law, who doesn't do any housework herself and spends most of her day lounging around, was suddenly complaining about dinner timing. It felt unfair and unnecessary. It didn't stop there. My father-in-law also started criticizing me more and more. "You haven't cleaned the bathroom yet," he said sharply one evening. "I'm sorry, I was going to finish preparing dinner first," I replied, trying to stay calm. "You're so slow. Can't you do your chores faster?" he snapped, frustrated. I couldn't help but respond. "Why are you being so harsh?" "Because you're useless," he shouted angrily. Day by day, their words grew colder and their tone harsher. My in-laws, who once seemed kind and supportive, now treated me like I wasn't part of the family at all. It was as if nothing I did was good enough for them. Slowly, the weight of their constant criticism began to wear me down. I couldn't hide how confused I was. My in-laws' behavior had become colder and harsher, and I didn't understand why. I knew I couldn't ignore the problem, so I decided to talk to my husband about it. "Why are your parents being so cold to me lately?" I asked Austin one evening, hoping for some support. "What? That's just your imagination," he replied casually, brushing off my concerns. "It's not my imagination." I insisted. "They get angry at me over the smallest things. It's like I can't do anything right in their eyes." Austin sighed and said, "Maybe they just want you to be a better wife. There's nothing wrong with that, right?" He even gave me a little smile as if this was no big deal. I stared at him, shocked. I couldn't believe how dismissive he was. At that moment, I realized I'd been wrong to ask him for help. And worse, I started to feel like I'd made a mistake marrying him. Slowly, my feelings for Austin began to fade. Things only got worse after that. My in-laws became even more demanding with each passing day. One evening, as I was washing dishes, my mother-in-law called out to me, "Janice, come over here and give me a massage." "I haven't finished the dishes yet," I explained politely, thinking she'd understand. "Don't talk back to me. Come here right now," she snapped. Reluctantly, I went to give her the massage, knowing she wouldn't let it go. But as soon as I finished and went back to the kitchen, my father-in-law started yelling. "Hey, my favorite cup isn't clean yet." "Why are you so slow?" he barked. I clenched my fists in frustration. Can't he wash his own cup? I thought. It felt so unfair. Why were they treating me like this? Feeling overwhelmed, I decided to ask Austin to talk to his parents. Maybe if he explained things, they ease up a little. But when I brought it up, Austin frowned and said, "It's too much trouble to deal with them." "Please, Austin," I begged. "I really need you to talk to them. I can't keep doing this." Finally, after a lot of pleading, he agreed. 10 days later, I asked him how the conversation went. "So, what did they say? Did they explain why they're acting like this?" I asked, feeling a glimmer of hope. Austin shrugged and said, "They just said part-time workers don't deserve human rights." "What?" I gasped. "How can they even say that? That's ridiculous." "Well," Austin continued nonchalantly, "they don't like that you work part-time instead of full-time." "But you're the one who asked me to work part-time." I snapped. "You told me to so I could handle raising our child and doing housework. Didn't you tell your parents that?" Austin looked away and said, "I didn't think that's why they were upset." I couldn't believe it. How could he be so careless and unconcerned about the way his parents were treating me? My heart sank, and I felt more alone than ever. I was shocked and didn't know what to say. My husband just looked away and muttered, "I didn't have time to tell them that." Stared at him in disbelief. How could he say that? I started questioning everything. Why I married him, why I stayed with him, and whether he even cared about me anymore. It felt like he had already abandoned me emotionally. For a brief moment, I even thought about divorce. But then I looked at my daughter. She deserved a family, and I wanted her to have a father in her life. So, for her sake, I decided to keep going, no matter how hard things got. Then, one day, something happened that changed everything. It was a weekend, and I'd gone grocery shopping. When I came back home, I found my mother-in-law sitting in the living room with my daughter. I was putting the bags away in the kitchen when I overheard her say something that made my blood run cold. "Oh, if only you were a boy. I would have been so much happier," she said to my daughter. "Why did it have to be a girl? What a shame." I froze, unable to believe what I was hearing. She was saying this to my 4-year-old child. I walked into the living room, trying to stay calm, and said firmly, "Mother, please don't talk to my daughter like that." My mother-in-law looked startled and quickly said, "Oh, I didn't know you were home." "Take back what you just said," I demanded. "Take it back." "Why should I?" "I meant it," she replied, her voice sharp. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my anger in check. What if she remembers what you said? What if it affects her? She doesn't even understand what I said. "You're overreacting," my mother-in-law excused herself with a dismissive wave. But I had already lost my patience. It's not about whether she understands right now. It's about what you're teaching her. I won't let you talk to her like that again. "You will harass my daughter?" I said angrily. "Harass?" she shouted back. "When have I ever harassed anyone? You're being ridiculous." I couldn't believe her denial. "Are you pretending not to know? If you're truly unaware, then you have a very twisted way of thinking." I snapped. You think I'm twisted," she stammered, her voice rising with anger. "What are you even saying, housekeeper?" "Housekeeper?" I repeated, completely confused. "That's right. You're just a housekeeper in this house," she spat. As we argued, my father-in-law walked into the room holding his newspaper. "What's all this noise?" "I can't even read in peace," he grumbled. "She's trying to start a fight with me," my mother-in-law said, pointing at me. He glanced at me briefly and muttered, "She's got a lot of nerve for a housekeeper," before walking off, clearly uninterested. I stood there, stunned. I couldn't believe this was my life. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "So you've been calling me a housekeeper behind my back. You really think so little of me, don't you?" I said, my voice shaking with anger. "Screw you," my father-in-law snapped. "You don't deserve any respect. You barely work part-time and don't bring in much money. That's why you're just a housekeeper here. You're lucky we even let you stay. And how dare you challenge your mother-in-law?" he added. "You're worse than a housekeeper. You should leave already." Then my mother-in-law jumped in. "You probably got pregnant just to trap our son and take his money. That's the kind of woman you are. But honestly, we'd be perfectly fine without you here." I stood my ground despite their cruel words. "Say whatever you want. I've had enough of this nonsense. You all seriously need a reality check," I said firmly. At that moment, I decided I wasn't going to take it anymore. I went to my room, grabbed my suitcase, and started packing my things. My daughter watched quietly as I packed, and I promised myself I'd protect her from these toxic people. Just as I was finishing, my husband came home. He had been out fishing all day and looked surprised to see me with a packed suitcase. "Janice, what's going on? Why do you have such a big suitcase?" he asked, confused. "I've been fired," I replied coldly, not bothering to hide my anger. "Fired? What are you talking about?" he asked, his face turning pale. "I've been told I'm just a housekeeper here and that I'm not wanted, so I'm leaving. and I'm not coming back, I said, pushing past him with my suitcase in one hand and my daughter's hand in the other. My mother-in-law stood by, sneering. "Well, at least now my son's money won't be wasted on someone like you," she said with a smirk. I didn't even bother responding. I looked at my husband one last time, hoping he'd say something, anything, to stop me, but he just stood there silently, his face pale and expressionless. That was the moment I knew I was truly done. I left with my daughter and went straight to my parents' house. They welcomed me with open arms, giving me the love and support I so desperately needed. The next day, my phone rang. It was my mother-in-law. I almost didn't answer, but decided to pick up. "Hello, do you still need something from me?" I asked, irritated. "Oh, Janice, I'm so sorry for the terrible things I said yesterday," she said, her voice soft and apologetic. I was taken aback. Her sudden change in attitude made me suspicious. "What's with the change of heart? Did my husband tell you to call me?" I asked. "I really apologize. Please come back," she pleaded. I laughed bitterly. "You don't need me, remember? I'm not coming back. Goodbye," I said, ending the call. And just like that, I closed the door on that chapter of my life. "I didn't know you were even bringing money into this house," my mother-in-law said, her voice trembling. I sighed, feeling exhausted but determined to set the record straight. "Yes, I was," I replied. "I've been giving you $3,000 a month out of my salary." Her eyes widened, but I continued before she could say anything. "Even though I work part-time, I'm a nurse, so I earn a decent income. My husband, on the other hand, has a full-time job, but his pay is always quite low. Most of his salary goes toward living expenses. That's why I was giving you money from my income. On top of that, I've been saving for our daughter's future, her tuition fees and other expenses." I took a deep breath and added, "My husband is a kind person, but he struggles with low self-esteem. Maybe because of that, he tries to appear more successful than he really is. When I left your house, he didn't have the courage to tell you that his income wasn't enough to support everything on his own. He also didn't tell you that I was helping him out financially. But when he failed to stand up for me and protect me from your harassment, I knew I couldn't stay with him anymore." My mother-in-law was silent for a moment, but I wasn't done. "I won't come back no matter what you say," I told her firmly. Then I hung up the phone. Right after that, I sent my husband a message. "We will speak through my lawyer from now on." Blocked all their numbers, my husband's, my mother-in-law's, and my father-in-law's. I had made up my mind. It was time to file for divorce. When I filed for divorce, I asked for both child support and alimony. Along with the financial support I had given them, the alimony covered the mental suffering I had gone through from my husband's quiet encouragement of their behavior and constant harassment from my in-laws. My former hubby is struggling right now. His modest income hardly covers his child support and alimony obligations to me. Besides that, his parents can no longer lead their once opulent way of life. They burnt up their funds so rapidly that they are now barely surviving from my father-in-law's retirement fund. They seem likely to struggle with management for the rest of their lives at this rate. To be honest, it's not of importance anymore. I've moved on, and their acts have results. They merit it, in my opinion. Every time my ex-husband visits our daughter, he asks me for assistance, claiming he is in financial problems. I stared at him one day when he brought it up once more and said, "If you keep asking me for help, I'm not going to let you see her anymore." Informed him with firmness. My ex-husband ceased asking for aid after that. He understood I was sincere and that trying to guilt me into anything had no use. Closed chapter of my life, I went back to my parents' house to at last begin anew. Coming back to live with my parents was a gift. They opened their arms to me and me the encouragement I required to keep on. Particularly, my mother has been quite helpful by looking after my daughter when I am working. As a single mother now, I am working more than ever to raise my daughter and create a secure future for us. My mother is here to watch after her, thus I have been able to resume night shifts, which greatly raised my income. Though working evenings can be demanding, knowing I'm doing this for my daughter gives me all the strength I need. I appreciate my parents' love and support every day. It helps me to concentrate on my work and my baby. The main inspiration for me is my small daughter. Seeing her grow up content and healthy makes every difficulty I go through worthy. Her grin helps me to remember why I put so much effort. It all is for her future. I'm resolved going ahead to lead a decent life for us. I have goals for myself that go beyond only financial ones, emotional as well. My daughter should grow up knowing she is safe, loved, and proud of her mother. I want to show her that with diligence and will you can conquer anything, even in trying circumstances. Though it's not always simple, single mother life is very fulfilling. I'm learning to juggle my own personal development, motherhood, and employment. Every stride I make brings me one step closer to the life we wish for, one marked with love, stability, and opportunity. I appreciate you investing time to read my story. Should you like it, kindly think about helping by channel subscription. As I still travel, your support means so much to me. Look after yourself. I hope to see you in the next video.